morning and welcome to the 8th round of the third season of I wasn't expecting that. Thank you very much, Mike Yao, our broadcast director from Simply Race. Alex Goldschmidt here, live and direct from Simply Race. And once again, joining me, one of the founders of Simsport Racing, Steve Proudly, joins me. Evening, Steve. Long time no speak, as they say.
Good evening, Alex, and hello again for today. And what a pretty boy you are on the screen.
Well, I am decked out in my lovely Simply Race top here. It's been a busy day for myself and Steve Proudly. We've a couple of hours ago, we finished on the Simply Race British Championships, a fantastic extravaganza. But we are in the business end of Season 3 GT3 here on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform. We've got 2 more rounds to go after this. On the 11th of October, we got the 90-minute race at Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, and then at Ricard on the 25th of October is the season finale where we crown our champion for Season 3 in GT3. And Steve, Laguna Seca, the WeatherTech Raceway, steeped in tradition. Born as such as the iconic corkscrew where you drop 5.5 stories deep in around 470 feet of track length. It's one of those fearsome corners, but Laguna Seca always provides fantastic racing.
It does, and it did in the GT4s. If we think back to that race, that was a fantastic evening's racing at Laguna Seca, a 45-minute blast. This evening we've got a 60-minute blast, which is lights out to the checkered flag, no mandatory pit stop, so should be in for some good racing. The guys have been practicing hard as ever, and I think they're all ready for it and they're all up for it, so it should be a corker.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on practice times, and Chris Crossland is trying to put a spanner in the works for Archie Clifford-Roberts this very evening, because the Porsche has been running quite well here at the circuit based in Salinas in California. And, it's 2.238 miles, 11 turns. It's a really, the funny thing was, if those that do have a bit of a short memory, Steve Proudly actually competed in the race at Laguna Seca in Season 1 for GT4 in the Porsche Cayman, if memory serves me correctly. But here are the points coming into this round as Archie Clifford-Roberts leads the way by 77 points ahead of James Hartnell. Chris Crossman, Regan Mitchell and Dave Hedges round out the top 5 positions ahead of Aaron Walker. Stephen Haley, Dean Riley, Lukas Kakos and Mark Neutelings rounding out the top 10. And Bliv AK, with a couple of good performances from him, puts him at the bottom part of the top 20. And someone's trying to give us a bit of a commentary duo nickname, but I think I've come up with that already, haven't I, Steve? North and South. Steve is from the North, I'm from the South. So there you go. North and South are here in full effect here at Simsport Racing. But looking at the editors leading the way in the team's championships on 661 points, that looks pretty much unassailable. And if they get a handful of points at Catalunya in a couple of weeks' time, they could run away with the team's championship. Tempesta Racing not too far behind in the pair of Ferraris. Hitotsuyama rounding out the top 3 ahead of BD Racing, and RPM Racing rounding out the top 5 in the team standings. And everyone all the way down to Car Guy Racing, with Jeffrey Wolf, I think, being the sole protagonist in that team, rounding out the top 15. But nevertheless, Steve, Laguna Seca, it is going to provide one hell of a 1-hour race here this very evening. We've got a 20-minute qualification session. Yeah, so just looking at the gaps here at the moment, Archie Clifford-Roberts, if he gets a win tonight, Steve, he's literally got one hand on that Season 3 title, hasn't he?
He has indeed, and knowing Archie, obviously he only races for the win. I'm not sure he'll have the one hand on the trophy sort of mentality this evening. He does take each race as it comes, and one at a time sort of a mentality, but yeah, definitely be going for the win, and he has proved a tough man to beat. Although James Hartnell, Chris Crossman, there's a few guys out there that have got something to prove.
I think also the drivers between 4th to 8th position, Regan Mitchell, Dave Hedges, Aaron Walker, Stephen Haley and Dean Riley, these drivers are covered by only 65 points coming into this round. So the battle for the bottom part of the top 5 is still very much on. Dave Hedges is only, 18 points behind Regan Mitchell, and if Dave gets the upper hand here at Laguna Seca, he could overtake Regan in the standings.
Yeah, definitely. Dave's another one. He's obviously Archie's teammate there, and he's fast as Dave on the right day. He'll certainly be racing for it, and I know Dave was talking to me during the week, and he's sort of got his eyes on Chris Crossman as his main competitor. So I'm guessing that's where he's going to be aiming.
Yeah, so Cat Cool, who also put the Tweedledum and Tweedledee alive. Yes, thank you very much for that. Says, good luck to everyone. Hope you have a great race. Well, we're expecting a great race here this very evening. And one of the first cars we spot our eyes on, our winner from Monza, James Hartnell in the 168 Ferrari. Now, Steve, let's talk about the cars, the characteristics, because this is a very, very bumpy, very much undulating circuit, a lot of climbs up, especially going through turns 4 to 5, then up to 6 towards the Rahal Straight before you head to the corkscrew. And also the swoop down here into the Andretti hairpin. It looks like the Porsche seems to have a good set of legs around here, but also so do the Audis. And the Audis seem to be the cars that have been the ones to beat this season.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Laguna Seca, it used to really favour the Porsche more than anything because it's a track where, such as the Mercedes and cars like that, then the Bentleys, they don't get to stretch their legs as much. It's not so much about the high speed, it's more about the manoeuvrability, the handling, the traction, the power out of the corners. And we all know the Porsche is absolutely fantastic out of the corners. But, the balance of power has just been adjusted this week. So some of the guys were saying the car's characteristics have changed ever so slightly, notably the Porsche. So we'll just see how Mr. Crossman copes with the Porsche's balance of power now, see if it has made a difference. I mean, before the changes, I would have expected to definitely see him up in the top 3. And I know at his last interview, he did say that he was looking forward to this one, and I think he was more or less expecting a win. But we shall see. Things have been shaken up, and they've only had a few days' practice since the changes took effect.
Oh, we've had, looks like Jeffrey Wolf has gone off at the second half of the corkscrew. A couple of corners negotiated in second gear. You're hitting about 80 kilometers an hour. That's around 50 miles an hour in second gear before you hit about 62 miles an hour on the apex of the second corner. And with speeds approaching around 230 plus kilometers an hour heading into the Andretti hairpin, where they're going to brake from around fifth gear, 230, 233 on the speedometer, down to second gear at 85 clicks. It's very much a true test of bravado here at such an infamous circuit.
It is indeed, and just looking at the times, Mr. Crossman's gone with a flying lap, and he's at the top of the boards off the cuff straight away with a 1:21.6. So, I think the times will get a bit faster than that. I know the boys are capable of faster times than that. But interestingly, Archie's done his first flying lap, and he's dropped in second place. So that's can't be a bad lap from Mr. Crossman. Previously, I would have expected them probably to get into the 20s. So 21.6 isn't a bad first lap.
Yeah, James Hartnell looks to be pushing that number 168 Tempesta Racing Ferrari very, very well at the moment. He's about 0.6 of a second adrift in P3. Then it's Regan Mitchell, and then I think it's Bliv AK bringing Godzilla into the top 5 on his first attempt. 1.5 seconds off of the pace set by Chris Crossman. 1:21.633. We have just over 15 minutes of this 20-minute qualification session, and it will be a 60-minute race. So from lights out to checkered flag, it will be all guns blazing, all cylinders firing, as we have one of the ML5 Jaguar racing cars from Richard Pixley in the number 7. He's currently running 17th. There's Paul Lindsay in the Park Place Motorsports Porsche. Park Place, actually a main dealer automotive group based in the United States, with a cavalcade of manufacturers being represented through their dealerships, including Porsche. Oh, now the number 12 of Chris Bowman has just stacked it big time into the wall, as Paul Lindsay nearly gets the tank slapper going through the second half of the corkscrew. So already, Steve, seeing that drivers are trying to push a bit too hard, aren't we?
Yeah, very much so, and they've got to let the track, evolve a little bit and just work with what they've got. And it's notable that the traction at Laguna Seca is not as sticky as a lot of the tracks. Sometimes your grip can be a little bit hard to find. So it's just a case of gently, and with such a short qualifying session as well, and 27 cars I think it is on the grid this evening. They really need to get a banker lap in, so to speak, and then push, rather than just hammer to the tongue straight out there, because they risk not getting a good lap in if they're not careful.
Yeah, so top 10 covered by 1.686 seconds with Peter Hrobar in the number 32 Team Land Audi rounding out the top 10 positions. Well, that has quickly changed, because Charlie Crossland has gone up in the number 66 Audi up into P10, just literally 15 thousandths quicker than the number 32 Land Motorsport Audi. The 3 Detox says on YouTube, can't wait to race weekend. It's going to be epic. Yes, we're looking forward to it as well. Steve Hendon says, good luck, guys. Let's have it, Archie. Big thumbs up.
Yeah, just want to give Steve Hinden a big shout out, because he's been helping organise the charity race, in the respect that he's been doing a lot of skins for the teams, which has brought in a lot of donations. And just to give people an update on the donations, I think we're about £20 short of £1,400, and that's before the event's even started. So that's just entry fees and donations towards the skins the liveries that Steve's provided. So that's great work, and thank you, buddy.
Well, 2 thumbs up to Steve Hinden, even though that one of them is holding my microphone at the moment. But Archie Clifford Roberts now gets to within 1/10.5, 0.126 seconds off of Chris Crossman. So the battle for pole position well and truly on at the minute, as Gavin Utley rounds out the top 12. A good showing from the Bentley, but he's about less than 1/10 of a second adrift off Mark Neutelings in the 666 Team Parker liveried Bentley Continental GT. So, we've just had a message on YouTube. Ethan Davis Racing, I think he might have pinged into Discord as well, saying that we've had some problems signing up and we think we missed the window. As it's for charity, would you be able to help us out? I'm sure, Steve, we can oblige with that one.
Yeah, if one of them, if they're on our charity endurance Discord, if they ping me a message, I'll see what we can do. I will have to double check, because 50 cars is the limit, and last time I looked, I believe we had 49. So we'll just have to double check that one before I say yes or no for definite.
Indeed, we can only do as much as we can as the Simsport Racing community. Quite simply, the place to race. Simsport-racing.com is the official website. You can also join us on our Discord server. We now have a Facebook page, and a big thank you to those watching on YouTube, Twitch, even the official Simsport Racing Facebook page. And a big thank you to simplyrace.co.uk and our broadcast director Mike Yao for providing us with some fantastic footage here around this brilliant circuit at Laguna Seca. So we're fast approaching a minute and a half to go before we hit the halfway point in the session, and Chris Crossman, Archie Clifford-Roberts, Stephen Haley, James Hartnell, Regan Mitchell, Paul Lindsay, Bliv AK, Rich Smith, Chris Pinchbeck, Dean Riley round out the top 10 positions as it's 1.185 seconds covering the top 11 drivers, as Dean Riley has actually matched Pinchbeck's time. But on the benefit that Pinchbeck set the lap time first, he gets the benefit of the doubt. It's the same in any qualifying session in any form of motorsport, be it grassroots karting all the way up to the higher echelons, including GT racing. As there is Charlie Crossland in the Team Fordzilla liveried Audi R8 LMS Evo.
Yeah, Charlie's a quick driver, very young man, very new to Simsport, but not new to sim racing. He's a very, very quick driver, as he proved the other evening in the GT4s with his KTM at Bathurst. So yeah, yes. eyes will be watching Charlie this evening. Another man I'd like to watch tonight, Rich Smith. We give him a shout out most weeks in the GT4s and GT3s, but he just seems to get caught up in some bad luck during the races. But he's a man that puts so much effort in, so much practice. It'd be nice to see him get a strong top 10 finish, which I know he's capable of. It's just a case of getting the luck and staying out of trouble as we just enter into the event. So yellow flags out as we now hit the halfway point of the session. Crossman and Clifford-Roberts still unassailable at the moment, but James Hartnell is getting faster as the session proceeds, as the track starts to rubber in. Gene Pinchbeck as always, Chris, cheers on. Good old Pinchy. Good luck to everybody. Thank you very much, Gene. Appreciate your support, as always. Dave Hedges rounds out the top 6 in the number 88 liveried. So, WRT liveried car, and he gets out of the way of Bliv AK. And oh, how sweet it is. There's been a bit of banter between myself, Steve and Dave Proudly in our Facebook chat. Dave Hedges, please. Yes, Dave Hedges, please. Come on.
Sorry, Dave Hedges. Sorry, I thought I said Dave Hedges. Obviously, my words decide to engage before my brain does. So
we've done too much talking today, buddy.
I know. I've got enough of that to do in Europe over the next month, and that includes some of the Simsport Racing action that you catch. The last 3 rounds of Simsport Racing GT4, which starts not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after, when we head to Zandvoort for round 4. I'm
going to interrupt you so you can have a quick rest, because if you look at the timings now, look how close James Hartnell is to Mr. Crossman. He's popped into second place, and that is so close, 0.027 of a second behind. So the boys are really trying out there, and the times are coming down.
Thank you very much for that, Steve. Yes, here is Chris Pinchbeck rounding out the top 11 positions in the number 43 BioCircle liveried Team WRT car, and he's about 21 thousandths off of Rich Smith, who completes the top 10 at the moment, as Daniel Parker cheering on his good friend Mr. Pixley.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Jaguar performs, because I believe one of the cars affected for the better was the Jaguar, so it might just have a little bit more speed under the bonnet, as it were, around Laguna this evening, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that one as well.
We did see that quite fastidiously down when we were at Monza, didn't we? The Jaguars did have a really good amount of good low-range grunt and coming out of the corners pretty well, and also having the top end, so that might play to the Jaguars' strengths here at Laguna Seca, as James Hartnell looks like Chris Crossman has responded with the 121.546. It puts the gap between him and James Hartnell to now 84 thousandths in the battle for pole position.
Can you believe? Can you believe we're talking about 84 thousandths of a second?
Oh no! Believe you me, in qualifying sessions in karting, I've seen positions decided by 1/1000th.
Yeah, I can't believe it, buddy.
So to me, this is not a surprise, but it is actually a surprise, because it's GT3 machinery. You know, you've got cars that are weighing in excess of 1.5 tons per vehicle, whereas a kart is like literally absolutely nothing in comparison. No bodywork, no aero, no big powertrain underneath. As here is Regan Mitchell, I think, getting himself ready to go on a hot lap. Another question, Steve. Ethan Davis says, is it limited to 30 GT3s and 20 GT4s for the 12-hour, or just 50 overall? I think Steve is probably the better person to explain that.
It's 50 cars overall because that's the server limit, and it's I think we're looking around about 35 GT3s and 15 GT4s as the sort of balance of the grid. And like I said, I think I will check, but I think if we have got a slot left, it will be a GT4 slot. But I'll double check straight after this race.
So 6 minutes to go in qualification. Regan Mitchell now trying to push like crazy in the Mercedes AMG GT3 in the fantastic Black Falcon livery as he now powers his way up the hill. Through into turn 6, now heads on to the Rahal Straight. And then the infamous corkscrew. It's a very deep braking zone. You're braking from around nearly 215 kilometers an hour in fifth as he now goes down the dip through in second gear, now up to third. He'll probably pull around 155 kilometers an hour plus going through Rainey's at turn 9, into the right at 10, where again this is another third gear corner at about 150 to 155 kph, and then up to fourth, all the way down the gearbox, down to first, slowest part on the circuit, turn 11. Around the final corner, let's see, does Regan Mitchell improve on this lap?
No,
well, it was just over 2 tenths off. 2 tenths off of that.
2 tenths off, yeah. Just another man that's impressing there is Bliv AK. He's up into fifth. You mentioned him earlier, but he's literally just six tenths off the pace now. And I have personally raced Bliv round Laguna in another championship in the GT3s, and he's pretty quick in the race pace. He's consistent round here. He likes this track, so he will be one to watch in this race. Although this will be the first time I believe he's raced here in the Nismo.
Yep, so we've got Anthony Terhorst in the 125 Team AKKA ASP team livery. One of the teams that the likes of Lelo Marcello and Danny Huncadea have raced with in GT3s in years past. I think I saw possibly Chris Bowman actually going off in front of Anthony as he negotiated through the corkscrew. And speak of number 12, and there is Chris. It's not been a really, really good season for Chris, but he does his very level best, doesn't he?
He does indeed, yeah, always. Just reading, sorry, I was slightly distracted there. I got reading Ethan Davis's racing message. No worries, buddy, I'll speak to you or I'll message you after the race.
So there's Mark Neuselings in the 666 Team Parker Racing liveried Bentley Continental GT3. One of two, and he's actually the best of them at the moment with Gavin Utley. Around about, I count that as 75 thousandths between those two. So the gaps still are pretty incremental in some perspectives, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just looking at the mix of manufacturers, throughout the grid, and the top 10 is certainly a good mix of cars, and I think it's the Audis that are surprising me that they're not, obviously Archie is there in third place, but then the next one is Haley in sixth, and now Steve Haley's no slouch. Now maybe you would have expected that car to be a couple of positions higher up, so maybe this adjustment to the balance of power has affected the Audi more than we realise. Obviously, in previous qualifying sessions, we've always seen Archie well up at the top, although Mr. Crossman was up for Laguna Seca, so maybe he's just brought his A game. And James, just about to say James Hartnell's put a fly in the ointment, but Archie's gone faster than James Hartnell. So the three of them are split now with talking thousandths of a second.
45 thousandths is the gap between first and second. So Archie Clifford Roberts has just put in a 1 minute 21.591. There's Adam Isalovic in the 111 T2 Motorsports Ferrari 488 GT3. He'll cross the line very shortly. Currently 14th at the minute on a 1 minute 22.830, and he's just put in a 1 minute 23.1.
Yeah, Adam's another consistent driver where if he can stay out of trouble, sometimes when you qualify in the mid-pack, the first couple of laps are also important, not just to get banged around and get any damage, and if you can survive the first few laps, Adam's certainly a top 10 contender.
So we now go on board with Archie Clifford Roberts in the number 96 Audi. Those wondering about the the squares that have the different colours. White is pro, grey is silver, and the red is for AM-rated drivers. And as their skill level improves on Assetto Corsa Competizione, thereby their ranking will increase accordingly. So it's 2 pro drivers leading a silver, and the top AM driver in this at the moment is Bliv AK. He's absolutely flying in that Nissan at the moment. He's only 4/10 off of Chris Crossman. That's great showing from the 747 numbered driver.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look at that there. I mean, the top, if you count Charlie Crossland, the top 9 are all literally a second off, and that is it. Even, well, Chris Pinchbeck, 1.041. So, you know, the top 10, 11 are all covered. I'm looking down at the times I go. Top 12, 1.080. So they're all 1 second off the pace at the minute, or within the pole time, should I say, which is pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, looking all the way down to Ranjiv Kalsi, you know, you're looking at what? Just over 1.8 seconds covering the top 22 drivers.
Yeah.
That's pretty good going.
It is very good going, and as I always point out every time we broadcast, every time we race, just to promote the community, it is a community of very mixed abilities. We're not an elitist community. Everybody's welcome of any ability, and any people of lower ability will get assistance from the faster drivers and get coaching, get assistance, questions are answered, and help is offered.
Very much the case. That's what we like to. That's our mantra here at Simsport: is come and be a part of the community, and we will help you move forward. As now 0 is on the timer. That is the end of the session. Archie Clifford Roberts. Now look at Chris Crossman on the last gasp. He's put in a 1:21.369. That's put him over 2/10 quicker than Archie Clifford Roberts, who is in the pits. James Hartnell, I'm wondering where he is at on circuit at the moment, because he is still, he's only like literally 35 thousandths off of Archie Clifford Roberts coming into the final throws, as he now is now making his way down towards the bottom part of the circuit. I think he's just gone through into rain. He's into, well, let's just see. He's now coming through the final corner. Is this going to be an improvement for James Hartnell on the final flying lap of his qualifying session? No, he's decided to abandon that lap. So Chris Crossman takes pole position for the 1 hour race here at Laguna Seca, ahead of Archie Clifford Roberts by 0.222 seconds. Then it's 0.261 seconds is the gap between Chris Crossman and James Hartnell. Regan Mitchell rounds out the top 4 ahead of the Nissan of Bliv AK. Stephen Haley, Paul Lindsay, Dean Riley, Chris Pinchbeck and Roberto Santoro round out the top 10 positions, covered by 1.062 seconds. Charlie Crossland rounds out the top 11, but that was an epic qualifying session. I was really interested to see whether Clifford Roberts or Hartnell could pit Crossman, and he just did a number on them, didn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. It was brilliant driving from all the guys. Everybody on the grid did well with the qualifying there, and I think it was very much the case, as I said earlier at the start of qualifying, the track evolves as it gets rubbered in, and Chris sort of confirmed that. Mr. Crossman, when he improved his time by 2/10 within the last few seconds of qualifying, that was the time to put the lap in, and he did. Some very close qualifying times right throughout the field. Well done, guys, and I think we're in for a very close race, especially if Mr. Crossman can beat Archie into the first corner.
Well, to really give you a true perspective of the lap around here at Laguna Seca, let's have a look firsthand from the driver's cockpit on how much commitment you really need here in California. Let's head around the Laguna Seca circuit here in California. 2.238 miles, 11 turns on the 911 GT3R. Down into Andretti hairpin, braking from between marker 3 and 4 at around 230 k's in 5th, down to 2nd at 85 kilometers an hour. Now up to 3rd gear as we head towards turn number 3, shifting down from 3rd at 170 down to 2nd at 120 kilometers an hour. Now it's about to negotiate turn 4 as you lift off the throttle whilst in 3rd gear, hitting the apex at around 160 kph as you make your way towards the left-hander at turn 5 before we go up the hill. Braking down to 3rd gear, 120 kilometers an hour. Now up the blast underneath the VP Racing bridge here into turn 6. Coasting through at 4th gear at 170 kilometers an hour as you power your way up the Rahal Straight through towards the corkscrew. 5.5 stories dropped in 450 feet. So down through to second gear, 80 kph on the first apex, 100 through the second. Now through into the left at Rainey's at third gear at 155 kilometres an hour before you put on the brakes at around about marker 2 from fourth gear at 190 down to third at 150 kph. One more corner to negotiate, the 11th and final turn, braking again from fourth at 190 down to first gear, 75 kph. The Porsche runs a little bit wide coming out of the final corner, and you power across the line in a 1 minute 20.9 second lap time. Welcome back, as we are about to get things well and truly underway here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca in California. Round 8 of Assetto Corsa Competizione, Season 3, GT3. The battle lines have been drawn. There is a talk of precipitation in the air, possibly, according to YouTube. I know that someone's been eagerly looking at the clouds up ahead, Mr. Proudley, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. A little bit of rain might just spice things up a little bit. Let's bring it on. You know, it's from where I'm sitting, that'd be just fine and dandy.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's better than the cockpit when you were racing with the GT4 crew in Season 1, and still managed to do a pretty good job. Gave Aaron Walker, who's currently on holiday, I believe. Amy Walker says, watching from the seaside, hoping Mr. Haley can get some good team points. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the 1 hour full guns blazing, foot to the floor race here at the US of A. And Steve, you know, we're at the business end of the championship. It's really getting rather interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, mate. I mean, obviously, like you said, Archie's almost got one hand on the trophy, and you'd be a brave man to bet against him winning the championship. But as we've seen, he's not always the fastest man in qualifying, albeit by a couple of tenths. Chris Crossman's beaten him this evening. Mm-hmm. If Archie gets swallowed up into the pack, or at least if Chris stays in front of him and makes a race of it, then you know, if they start battling, James Hartnell, Regan Mitchell, Liv AK, Steve Haley, they'll all have something to say about it, and they'll all be up there battling with them. So we could have a bit of a barnstormer if Chris can get to the first corner before Archie does, because we know what Archie does. If he gets into that first corner and gets away, there'll be a gap.
Right, let's have a look at the grid. So Chris Crossman will lead the field across the start-finish line, and alongside him will be Archie Clifford Roberts, the current points leader in Season 3. James Hartnell and Regan Mitchell, row 2. Liv AK and Stephen Haley, row 3. Then it is Paul Lindsay and Dean Riley, row 4. And then Chris Pinchbeck and Roberto Santoro rounding out the top 10. Charlie Crossland and Dave Hedges, Adam Isalovic, Rich Smith, and then we've also got Martin Dergala in the 488 Ferrari. That's an apt number, if I must say. Peter Hrobar, Mark Neutelings, Gavin Utley. Then we've got Anthony Terhorst, Joao Diaz, Ranjiv Kalsi, Jeffrey Wolf, and Gianluca De Luca rounding out the top 23 drivers. And it is looking rather dark and grey up ahead.
Absolutely. Let's just hope there's no storm clouds on the track or in the sky.
So 1 hour of racing, 60 minutes around the 2.238 mile 11 turn circuit here, simply known as WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And this is where the drivers are really starting to get into their zones, aren't they, Steve? Because now is the time to concentrate and to make sure that you don't have a jump start, because instantly you have to serve a drive-through within the first 3 laps of the race. And if that happens to Chris Crossman or Archie Clifford Roberts, that turns the race upside down on its head.
It does, because this evening there's no mandatory pit stops. There's there's no way of getting it back. I mean, obviously the guys will be they're lining up 2 by 2 now. They'll be just second guessing themselves, as I've said before. Again, have we got enough fuel? Because we are not expecting any pit stops this evening. If they are, it's just down to the drivers choosing to take a pit stop to repair damage, or if they've short fuel, because this is a lights to flag race. No mandatory pit stop.
Round the final corner we come. Things are about to get well and truly interesting here at Laguna Seca in California. Ladies and gentlemen, we are red lights at the moment. And before you know it, it's green, green, green here in Laguna Seca, and we're off and away. The first run down to the Andretti hairpin for the first time. Chris Crossman gets into the initial lead. Archie Clifford Roberts being closed in on by James Hartnell. As you can see on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, it's 3 abreast at some points. Rich Smith towards the outside there. I think that was Dave Hedges that he was on the outside of, going through the Andretti hairpin. Some drivers running a little bit wide, but nevertheless a bit clean so far. But Chris Crossman has already started to try and pull away from Archie Clifford Roberts, like the driver possessed, is looking to make a move early, possibly through into turn number 5, as they now start making their way up the hill for the first time. Under the VP Racing Bridge, now through into the left at turn 6, which puts them onto the Rahal Straight, and now we head to the fearsome corkscrew, 5.5 story drop in 470 feet. Now we go on board, big style here, down to second gear, on board with the Ferrari of James Hartnell, through into the dip, and Crossman has got a real good start already, hasn't he here, Steve?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously he's not pulled the gap as yet, but he's basically settled in there, and Archie's just dropped a couple of tenths off him, so he's allowing Chris to find his feet now. And we've seen in previous races, when Chris finds his feet, he can be a difficult man to overtake. As Kev Critch says, come on, Cross-Alien. Cross-Alien, I believe, is...
I think that was 2 words that didn't really go that well together, but never mind. But Archie Clifford Roberts keeping within striking distance. We're now on to lap 2 of this 1-hour race, and James Hartnell is keeping to within around about 7 tenths off of the leader, as they now come through the right-hander at turn 3. Now, we're going to have a look. This is Gavin Utley and Adam Isailovic going into the Andretti hairpin, I believe. A little bit of a touch between the pair, but nothing too major there. A little bit of rubbings racing, but now this is really on. Crossland leads, Clifford Roberts, Hartnell, Mitchell, Bliv AK, Haley, Pinchbeck, Lindsay, Riley and Crossland round out the top 10. And this is where things really... Now, the thing is that, okay, this is our 8th round of Season 3 for GT3, but this is where the real hard work begins. It's one thing to be at the lead of the standings coming into this round, but one thing can be assured: unpredictability in this race. There's a little bit of contact there, and that was the 125 of Anthony Terhorst being turned around a little bit there. I think that might have been possibly from Joao Diaz in the 26 going through into the Andretti hairpin. So Clifford Roberts looking to strike early, but Chris Crossman in that Porsche, he's making it difficult for Clifford Roberts in the 96 Audi, isn't he, Steve?
He is indeed, yeah. It looks like the pace is fairly evenly matched between the two, but it's fantastic to see that opening lap. It was very, very clean there. All the guys safely navigated the full first lap pretty much, and the only couple of incidents we saw were just very, very minor incidents. So am I right in thinking Charlie Crossland's dropped down to 10th? He's probably had the worst start out of anybody, I believe, in the top 10. Bliv AK and Regan Mitchell 4th, Bliv AK 5th. Bliv's had a really good start and maintained his grid position, so good to see Bliv having a good race.
Yeah, looks also the case for Paul Lindsay in the Park Place Motorsports car. I think that car nearly had a bit of a moment there. And now Dean Riley in the number 2 Tempesta Racing car. Looks like they're heading up to turn 6 and powering. Yeah, Yeah, he lost a bit of time, did Paul Lindsay, went a bit sideways, and now here comes Charlie Crossland looking towards the corkscrew. Now, this is one of the most bits of overtaking opportunities you can get, but if you can get it right... Oh, Lindsay's turned around. Lindsay's been turned around, I think, by Roberto Santoro there. I think there was a little bit of contact between the pair, so Lindsay spun around at the crest of the corkscrew. Now, that is definitely something that no one really wants in this race.
It's not, but it's something that's so easily done. I mean, the car's so unbalanced when you're going over the crest. Obviously, you're just coming off the brakes and turning into the corner, and it's so easy to get turned. And to be honest, sometimes you don't even need contact as we watch it again. Yeah, he just took a shunt to the rear, and that spun him round. So that's going to be something for the stewards to look at after the race, obviously.
Yeah, so Roberto Santoro now having the eagle eye quite literally put on him, so to speak, as we're fast approaching the conclusion of the first 5 minutes of this race, as Paul Lindsay now finds Adam Isalovic in the 111 Ferrari 488 GT3 bearing down on him. Dave Hedges rounds out the top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, just interestingly, James Hartnell put the fastest lap of the racing on the last lap, half a second faster than both Archie and Chris Crossman.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive lap, and that's not too far off his qualifying pace a little bit earlier on this evening, as they now head under the VP Racing Fuels bridge through into turn 6. A little bit of a run wide towards the right-hand side by Dave Hedges. And there's Archie Clifford Roberts. The gap between him and Chris Crossman has stayed around the 2.5 to 3/10 of a second marker at the moment. But Clifford Roberts, like a driver possessed, we know how quick this driver is, and he will stop at nothing. You know, with fair means, no foul. And Archie's a very, very competent driver. We've seen that before. And I know that people have been interested in seeing his polished antics here on Simsport Racing, haven't they, Steve?
They have indeed, but the problem is Archie doesn't usually get much airtime because he normally checks out at the start, and within a few laps he's got a good few seconds lead. So.
Oh, now there's been another spin around, and that was Anthony Terhorst, as Mark Neutling says nowhere to go. Now, was that? I'm just thinking that was an Aston Martin I picked up there. I'm wondering whether that might have been Gianluca De Luca in the 135 that caught him and span him around. It was, tagged Terhorst, put him into a spin. Neutling comes flying around the corner, and unwilling participant in the 666 Bentley there, so that drops him down to 19th position.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate and very much avoidable, in my humble opinion, that incident. But again, the stewards will have a look at that one. So sparks flying from the rear diffuser of Archie Clifford Roberts' Audi R8 LMS Evo, again going through Rainey's that time, and you can just tell how much Chris Crossman wants to get the latter part of the season really in the best way possible, because let's not forget, he actually opened up the season with a victory, didn't he? He did, yeah. The Nurburgring, he had a fantastic race there and did really well to hold off Steve Haley in the later stages of that race. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be the hardest 60 minutes of his life if Archie stays that close to him. He's certainly not going to let him relax, and he's certainly going to keep him under pressure. Just say a quick hello to Daniel Jim, our GT4 driver at the moment, just saying hello on Twitch. Good evening, Daniel.
Yes, really, really good to see that he's now a welcome part of the community, running in the GT4 Championship in the Porsche 718 Cayman. So Clifford Roberts has actually put in the fastest lap of the race, so 1 minute 22.731, and he is closing as they go under the VP Racing Fuels bridge up into turn 6. Now the ascent to the corkscrew begins, and he's got a big rear bumper in the form of that Porsche. Right up ahead, they go deep into the brakes, into the corkscrew. Second gear, 80 Ks through the first bit, 100 Ks, and accelerate out of the corner. Now through into the left at 9, that is Rainey's. Third gear, 155 kph, braking from around marker 2 from 190 in fourth, down to 150 in third, so a little bit of a lift and coast whilst you're shifting down, and then all the way down the gearbox into first gear, trying to run as far as you dare without really mitigating track limits, because obviously that's one of the biggest things in these kind of races when it's flat out here, Steve, that many times drivers can really, really push the limits of adhesion and also the limits of the track, as James Hartnell puts in the fastest lap. Where did that one come from? A 122.392 by the 168 Ferrari, and he's only 7.5 tenths off of Archie Clifford Roberts in second position.
Yeah, well, he's pushing hard, isn't he? Obviously, I was looking at the time gap while you were talking, and he's brought it down, like you say, from around about a second or just over now, and he's almost within, he's within 7/10 of these two guys, certainly, and the last thing he wants is these guys to pull away from him. So he's obviously got Regan Mitchell 1.5 seconds back, and James has got his eyes on the prize with Archie. He's going to push and try and stay with them.
Did you notice that there was a slight mistake there from Chris Crossman coming through turns 4 and into 5? He put both left wheels onto the dusty stuff on the left-hand side through the right-hand kink, and that nearly allowed Archie Clifford Roberts to possibly have an opportunity going into turn 5. However, Chris Crossman, being the steely determined individual that we both know he is, will not give up and will go full throttle, especially if you put 2 wheels on the dirt here at Laguna Seca, and that can bite you in some respects, can't it, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you get on the dirt and it saps the speed out of the car, and obviously you've got no traction on there as well, so you have to lift. And when you're racing as close as this, any opportunity, any advantage you give your opponent, and he's going to take it. And certainly with an opponent like Archie, you don't want to be giving him any advantage whatsoever.
So 1/6 of the race completed, 10 minutes completed, and now we are less than 50 to go. It is flat out all the way through from green all the way to the checkered flag. Top 3 covered by just under 9.5 of a second as we make our way through onto another lap. We're currently on lap number 8 of this race. Chris Crossman, having put it on pole position by over 0.2 of a second, continues to lead the way by nearly 0.4 off of Archie Clifford Roberts, and a great camera shot on the left rear haunch of the Porsche 911 GT3R 991-2 variety. But look how close Clifford Roberts gets through into the brakes, going through the corkscrew. That is absolutely well committed by the number 96 Audi. The 168 Ferrari of James Hartnell is not too far behind. But look at the back of the shot here, Steve. Regan Mitchell is closing.
You read my mind and you read the timing sheet. I was just going to mention Regan Mitchell has closed that gap down. He was 1.5 seconds back, and now he's almost he's within a second. So he's certainly a man on the move, and he lapped faster than all 3 guys in front of him the last lap with a 22.9. So he's certainly putting the lap times in.
Yeah, so just looking at the lap times now, Chris Crossman puts in his best lap of the race, a 1 minute 22.788. That was quicker than Clifford Roberts, Hartnell and Mitchell, all in one fell swoop. Looking a little bit further back, Bliv AK's dropped to 8th position as Stephen Haley now has 5th ahead of Chris Pinchbeck. Dean Riley in 7th in the sister Tempesta racing car as we go on board the rear of the right side skirt of Regan Mitchell on the Black Falcon liveried number 69 Mercedes AMG GT3.
Yeah, and then Archie just dropped 2 wheels onto the dirt there as well, so he's pushing hard to try and stay with Crossman. That just shows how hard Chris Crossman's pushing, if he's got Archie behind him pushing hard enough to make mistakes as well. So these guys are absolutely on it, and we're in for an exciting 47 minutes.
So looking at a lot of drivers down the order on terms of the timing sheets. Rich Smith has put in a personal best, as is Gavin Utley, Reese Wiggin, Martin Dugala, Mark Neutlings, who rounds out the top 19 ahead of Peter Hobart in the number 32 Land. He's running the WRT livery Audi, not the Land Motorsport like I've seen in the previous race. He rounds out the top 20. Jeffrey Wolf in the car guy Ferrari 21st. He's not bettered his best lap time so far of a 1:24.024. Chris Bowman in 23rd. Ranjiv Kalsi rounds out the top 25 positions, and in the number 47 has also set a personal best.
Yeah, it looks like Chris is just finding his pace now, and he's extended that gap to 3/4 of a second almost, which doesn't sound a lot, but when you consider they've been running in within a couple of tenths, it's believe it or not, it's a bit of breathing space for him, and he can settle down and try and find his rhythm. But Archie's he's hanging on. James Hartnell for half a second back. Regan Mitchell must have had a moment because he's dropped. He's nearly 3 seconds back again now, so something's happened to Regan.
Yeah, I think he might have also put 2 wheels on the dirt, possibly around one of the at least a couple of the corners around here at Laguna Seca. It's a very tight technical circuit with a lot of low-end grunt required from these GT3 machines. As Dean Riley in the number 2 Ferrari closing on the back bumper of the 43 of Christopher Pinchbeck as they go through the corkscrew. Slightly different lines taken by the respective cars. But Pinchbeck is a little bit, he's about nearly half a second ahead of Dean Riley. Well, he was until they now started to close up, going through into the last few corners here at Laguna Seca. 46 minutes and 6 seconds still to go, as now Clifford Roberts has closed up that gap to now 0.3 of a second. So has Crossman had a moment? I think he has, because he's done a 1:23.2, and here is Clifford Roberts. We're on board with him now on the bonnet cam, a 1:22.836. So I think Chris Crossman might have had a bit of a drama in the previous lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And Regan Mitchell's continuing to drop off a little bit. He's 3.5 seconds back now. James Hartnell's still within the second behind them. He's 0.8 down. So it's all pretty much stations as were before, but just time's altering. I mean, we're talking tenths of a second, so it's not massive amounts of time. But the guys are certainly pushing.
So we're getting to 1/4 distance of the timer elapsing here at Laguna Seca. Those clouds, Steve, I think someone has definitely been doing the rain dance, but the rain has yet to hit the circuit. I mean, it's around about, what is it? Looking at the air and track temperature, the track temperature is dropping. And in some respects, the air temperature, if that drops as well, one of the biggest things is, even with the BOP, these cars will start to get a little bit more assistance in terms of the breathability through the air filters, through those massive splitters and air dams that they've got on the front of the car. That can assist them to keep the engines cool, but also can help with regards to a little bit of extra power in terms of the sort of like the real and the virtual sort of crossover, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just looking at the weather forecast, and I don't think the rain dances, we haven't done it well enough, because it's forecast just to be cloudy for the rest of the race, and no rain is forecast. But not always right, are they? I don't suppose, weather forecasts, and we can still live in hope. But looking at Peter Hobart there, he's in close attention to Mark Neutlins, as Mark just put some 2 wheels on the dirt, and he's going to do well to hold that position, but he has done, defended well. So Mark's not having his best race in 19th place, so you would expect to see him a little bit higher up than that.
Yeah, Jeffrey Wolf not too far behind them either, 6.5 of a second adrift of Peter Hobart in the number 32 Audi. Here's the number 86 Ferrari, and Wolf got very close in the braking zone right there, going through the Andretti hairpin. And we've seen it before from Jeffrey Wolf, that when he gets his pace under his sails, he does tend to sort of thrive a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, Jeffrey Wolf's another one of these drivers that once you get sort of, 15-20 minutes into a race, he seems to start coming alive, he settles in, he finds his feet. And I just, maybe I was a little bit harsh on Mark there, saying he wasn't having the best race. Obviously remembering back a few laps, he got turned around just about here, where we just seen Mr. Hobart put a wheel off and go sideways there as well. So, so Mark's on more of a recovery drive, so I'll retract my last step.
Well, because obviously Anthony Terhorst got spun around, didn't he? And then Mark Neutlings had absolutely nowhere to go, and the pair clashed rear wings, and both of them got spat out a bit, one to the left, one to the right. As Paul Lindsay now coming under fire once again from Adam Misalovic in the 111 Ferrari, heading down the main straightaway, across the start-finish line, over the crest, down the dip, in towards the Andretti hairpin, and just up ahead in the number 76 Lexus, good old Rich Smith. Good to see him fighting his way at the okay, it's the lower third of the top 15, but Rich has always been quite competitive. He's the only one that has decided to get behind the wheel of that RCF GT3 and try to master it.
Yeah, and he's, like I say, I keep saying he puts the practice in, he puts the effort in, so he deserves a good finish. And I think Rich Smith is a capable top 10 racer now. He's relatively new to Simsport, but he's with the time and effort he's putting in, he's definitely improved, and he knows what he has to do. He's on the servers most evenings. It's really incredible, to be honest, how much time he does put into it. But yeah, it'd be nice just to see him go a couple more positions and get into that top 10, maybe 8th or 9th, but we'll see. Dave Hedge is down in 9th. That's not where I'd expect to see Dave either, but again, the balance of power thing, and we don't know what incidents Dave's had, because we haven't seen much of him this race.
No, he hasn't been getting his screen time like normal, has he?
Definitely not.
Well, when it does, we know what sign's going to show up, don't we? But I digress. But yeah, I mean, Rich Smith, he's got about 3.6 seconds to find on Charlie Crossland in for what is the last position in the top 10. But you now look at Dean Riley. Now, he has been keeping Chris Pinchbeck rather honest, and look who's joining their party. Bliv AK in the 8th placed 747 Nissan Nismo GTR ET3. And Bliv again, shows great passion for this community and also shows great passion and determination behind the wheel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, his last lap was a 23.2. Chris Pinchbeck was a 23.8 and Dean Riley's was a 23.6, so he's definitely closing up on those guys. Chris Pinchbeck may not be the fastest out of those three gentlemen at the moment, but he will be very difficult to overtake, as he proves so many times he's a very competent at defending, so it's not going to be an easy overtake for either of these two guys.
You know what I've just noticed here, Steve? Look at the gap between Crossman and Clifford Roberts. It's now extended to nearly 9/10 of a second. Crossman has just done a 22.7, Clifford Roberts a 23.0, so I'm wondering if, and the gap now nearly a second between the pair as Dean Riley closes right up towards the back bumper of Chris Pinchbeck. And look at Bliv AK, he's got a double toe going into the Andretti hairpin. Who's going to come? Bliv AK just absolutely sends it at the outside of the Andretti hairpin on Dean Riley, and that's great spatial awareness between the pair. And Bliv AK is going to get up the inside for turn 3. Brilliantly done there by the Nissan driver.
Yeah, great respectful driving from both those guys there. I was chuckling there when Bliv sent it down the outside. That just looked absolutely ridiculous that he was going to get the cut back and get in there, but he did. He managed it. Kudos to him. He managed to turn it round the outside and get the inside line for the next corner. Absolutely brilliant.
Cool as a cucumber was Bliv AK on that move, I must be completely honest. And now he's going to start chasing down Chris Pinchbeck, but not too far behind Dean Riley, about 1.8 seconds adrift is the 88 of Dave Hedges in the Audi, as these three now make their way through the corkscrew. And it looks to see that possibly the Bliv AK might be getting a better run coming out of the exit of the corkscrew through into the left at Rainey's curve. And already Bliv AK has started to drop Dean Riley. Now that's a bit of a surprise. That Nissan really looks to be well sorted in Bliv AK's hands there, doesn't it, Steve?
Yeah, well, it's a car he's been working on all season. It was new to him at the beginning of this season, and he's had mixed results with it, but credit to the guy, he's stuck with it, and he's been working on the setups round after round, and he's finally understanding the car, which I think is, they were his words, he said he's getting an understanding of it, and he's getting to know what to do with the setup.
So we go on board with Peter Robart as Mark Neutelings has a bit of a moment coming through turn 10, but manages to keep going through the apex of turn 11, runs a bit wide. Robart up the inside, the Audi gets past now across the start-finish line to now take 19th position. Jeffrey Wolf still has the ringside seat for what is set to be a really interesting two-way battle as they go into the Andretti hairpin. Neutelings tried to go into the inside of number 32 of Peter Robart, but Robart stays resilient, stays in 19th position for the moment.
Yeah, Mark, and I mean, there was a bit of deja vu there. I'm sure Mark did that a couple of laps ago, so he got away with it on that occasion previously, but not that time. Peter managed to get past him. As we see, Bliv is right on the rear bumper now of Pinchbeck. And if Pinchbeck looks in his rearview mirror, he's not going to see an awful lot other than a red Nismo behind him. So Bliv's going to be putting pressure on him, and I'm wondering if he's going to try to go around the outside of Pinchbeck into the first turn.
Well, we'll wait and see on that one. You know what they say, Steve? Once bitten, twice shy. Here we go, down towards the Andretti hairpin. Bliv AK now tries to go for the inside, let alone the outside, like he did on Dean Riley last time around. So the Nissan is, Bliv AK is the only Nissan driver here. He's that car, and I have to echo the comment that I've just heard from our broadcast director, Mike Yao from Simply Race, that car is absolutely sorted on the brakes. Bliv AK's got a really good setup, and if he can get past Pinchbeck, who knows, he could move forward. And Steve Haley, okay, he might be 7.18 seconds up the road, but if he's got about 30 minutes to go, Bliv AK, if he's got the pace in that Nissan, he can close that gap down.
Yeah, it's never over till it's over, so 7-8 second gap it's achievable in 30 minutes of racing, because you just never know what the other guy's going to come across. As we see, it's almost pushing Pinchbeck through into the corkscrew. As you were just saying about the brakes there, he just closed right up on the brakes onto the back of Pinchbeck. Absolutely incredible, and he managed to not touch him, although I don't think you'd have got very many pieces of paper between them.
Yeah, very much the case. Good to hear from Cameron Fife, one of our GT4 Season 2 competitors. Good to hear from you, buddy. Yeah, he said the track looks like hard work. Love the GT3s. Well, we do as well, my friend.
Yeah, Bliv just got a little bit squirrely coming out of the last turn there. He tried to get on the power very quickly, lost a bit of traction, and that's just given Pinchbeck the bit of breathing space into this first turn, although Pinchbeck runs very wide there and just lets Bliv close back up again. And Dean Riley all the time has made that gap back up, so it is a three-way battle again, with Dave Hedges closing in rapidly now, it has to be said.
Yeah, and about 3.6 seconds behind him is... Look at that for a rear view mirror shot there. All blurry is one of the... that might have been probably Chris Bowman that's just gotten out of the way of these this trio that we're charging through turn 5. Now into the left at 6. Let's stay on board with Chris Pinchbeck for a little bit as we now... This is where you get a true idea of how much of a compression zone there is. Into the braking zone for the corkscrew. Second gear, 80 Ks on the first part, down the dip. 100 Ks as there's a forlorn car to the left-hand side as Bliv AK tried to put the power down. The back end of the Nissan stepped out once again, and that has allowed Chris Pinchbeck to sort of get a bit more breathing space that he very much needed.
Yeah, and we're looking up at the front again. Archie's got the gap down to 6/10 again, back up behind Mr. Crossman. I think it's very much the case at the moment that these two guys have got, one stronger than the other on individual parts of the circuit, so that gap's just fluctuating by a couple of tenths here and there. As we see Bliv almost shortcutting the chicane, just lost a little bit of traction there and lost some ground to Pinchbeck, and obviously Dean Riley's all over the back of Bliv as well.
That kind of reminded me of Casey Stoner going too wide down the corkscrew in MotoGP a few years ago when he was riding on a Ducati, and he took the same sort of line that Bliv AK took just a moment ago. But it works on two wheels, not necessarily with the GT3 car, that it's about quite a considerable amount heavier, including the driver, and that's probably about 10 times heavier than MotoGP driver and bike combined.
Yeah, well, I think on that occasion it was Casey Stoner took that line, but Valentino Rossi took a tighter line, because I believe it was Valentino that went down the inside of Casey Stoner on that occasion, and got complained at after the race very heavily.
Well, I mean, we all know that Casey Stoner is not one to mince his words, especially when he was competing for world titles in MotoGP, but 33 minutes and 38 seconds still to go. The battle for the lead still hotly contested between our current leader, who has led all of every single 19 laps so far. We're on to lap number 20, having led from pole position. Chris Crossman leads from Archie Clifford Roberts. They look to be gapping James Hartnell a little bit more this time around, as Crossman and Clifford Roberts both set personal bests. Clifford Roberts was exactly a tenth and a half quicker than Chris Crossman on that last lap. The gap now just under half a second as they now power their way up through turn 5, up the slight incline that then helps the build-up towards the infamous corkscrew. Under the VP Racing Fuels bridge, into turn 6.
Yeah,
now
turn 6 is a real killer. It's very difficult to get right because it's quite blind as you turn in, and it just sets you up, like you say, for the corkscrew. And if you get it wrong, you can lose a few tenths, definitely. And if or even worse, you can run off the track to the right and lose a lot of time when you run off.
Now they've got a back marker just up ahead. That is Richard Pixley in the number 7 Jaguar. So he's going to basically get the blue flags as Bliv AK still trying to chase down Pinchbeck to try and get past for 5th position. Oh, Pinchbeck off! Big time off! Now, was there contact between the two? That is the biggest bone of contention I've got right here.
I would say there is, because it looks like Bliv slowed to allow Pinchbeck to retake the position, which would indicate that he made contact with the back of Pinchbeck in there. But, I mean, that Nissan was so good on the brakes. Every time we saw him come through the corkscrew, we were holding our breaths as he closed right up on the brakes. So I don't want to say it was inevitable, but you know, it was always a risk.
Always one of one and 500 the other, isn't it, Steve, in those kind of situations, because the drivers are pushing like crazy. I mean, including the two at the front that we see on our screens, and now that James Hartnell will have to try and get past. Let's have a look at the replay here. Now they come up towards the approach. Now there was a touch. Left rear first of all. Now they try and go up the hill. So, yeah, I think let's just have a look. Now this is the angle we want. Yeah, there was a touch from behind. Pinchbeck put the power down as a result of the tag, and he ended up being spun around. So there was the slightest touch, and on a rear-wheel drive vehicle, one slight touch like that, Steve, can turn it all asunder.
Yeah, absolutely. Not great at all, to be honest. But it's one of those things. Won't say it's a racing incident. The stewards will have a look at it, and if there's a penalty to be handed out, they will do.
Let's have a closer look at this. So they come through the first part. Yeah, there is. It's a slight push. It's more of a push rather than a tap. But I think that Chris Pinchbeck was just trying to close the door. I think Bliv AK probably got a bit unsighted there as a result, and the push resulted as the pair sort of slightly. It was a bit of a love tap more than anything, really, wasn't it?
It was indeed, but unfortunately, it looks like Mr. Pinchbeck has dropped off the standings. Unless I'm just not looking properly, I can't see him on the standings.
He's down in, well, effectively, according to the timing screens on the left-hand side of my commentary position here, 23rd according to it, but I think he might be dropping ever further than that. Bliv AK running in 7th position at the moment, but obviously he did the gentlemanly thing of trying to slow down and allow Chris Pinchbeck to get on past. So the thing is obviously that's going to scrub a set of tyres on that Audi. Whether that's caused any damage is anyone's guess. So to be fair, I'm not too sure. Now we've gone over half-time here in the race, so less than 30 minutes to go. Archie Clifford Roberts has been keeping Chris Crossman very, very honest indeed. And looking at the lap times last time around, Chris Crossman did a 1:22.995. Archie Clifford Roberts a 1:23.148. So the pendulum in terms of the gap is swinging between the pair of them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's as I said, it's strong parts of the track for each driver, and I think it's just to-ing and fro-ing, yo-yoing the time, so to speak. I mean, it's showing Archie as a second behind at the moment. Another one to watch, though, Regan Mitchell. He's down in 14th with whatever issue he's had, and he's 2/10 behind Gav Utley. So a good battle going on there by the looks of it. And Charlie Crossland is now, because Bliv waited for Pinchbeck, Crossland's only half a second behind Bliv in 7th place.
Yep, so here is Charlie Crossland from Team Fordzilla. Started 23rd in the GT4 race at Bathurst this past Wednesday and made it to the final step on the rostrum. And he's closing in on the Nissan, the number 747 of Bliv AK. And that gap is definitely dwindling down, considering how hard the number 66 Audi driver is pushing at the moment. They're now going to go through into what is effectively turn 3. Or turn 4, as they'll now go into the right-hand kink, into the left at 5, before they start ascending their way up towards the big crest of the circuit itself at the corkscrew. Good run by Crossland coming out of that corner there.
Yeah, he's like I say, he's very, he's a competent driver. He knows how to get the best out of a car, and he's quick. He's still developing as a driver, but he is quick. He's definitely got the top 10 paces he's showing tonight.
So through the corkscrew they come. This is the battle for what is 7th position on the road. Bliv AK not giving any quarter to Charlie Crossland. Sparks flying from the diffuser of the Nissan this time, as we saw that a bit earlier on through from Clifford Roberts, as now they make their way through into the final corner. Deep on the brakes goes Bliv AK, not allowing Charlie Crossland an opportunity to have a door wide open presented in front of him. And Rich Smith and Adam Isalovic now round out the top 10 positions.
Yeah, just as we're watching Charlie and Bliv there, you can just see how much the Nissan pulls out on the straight, because Charlie came out of that corner pretty much right behind him, and then as soon as they started to open the gas taps, the Nissan just pulled away, which is no mean feat on the Audi, because the Audi is not the slowest car on the grid by a long way.
No, very different setup in terms of engine layout and configuration. A 3.6 litre V6 turbocharged engine in the Nissan and a 4 litre V8 in the Audi, as Crossland looks a little bit closer this time. Going through into turn number 5. And he gets a good run once again, coming on towards the VP Racing Fuels bridge, through into the right, the left at 6. taken at fourth gear at around about 170 so kilometers an hour, or if you're feeling brave, closer to 185 kph. Now deeply braking into the corkscrew, down the dip. Sparks again flying from the back end of the Nissan, but Charlie Crossland keeping within 0.4 of a second of Bliv AK. This is a great battle here for 7th position.
Yeah, absolutely. We know how good Bliv is on the brakes, so it's going to be really hard for Charlie to get past him. I mean, I'm guessing, Charlie is obviously a little bit quicker than Bliv because he's closed the gap down, but catching and passing, as we've said, week in, week out, it's two different things. Just a quick mention to Mark Neutling's, sorry guys, I give up, no fun in damaged, unpredictable car, so there's confirmation that Mark's retired his car this evening, which was the Bentley.
Yeah, I just did see it. It's parked in the pit lane, hazards ablaze. So real shame for the number 666 Bentley Continental GT3, but there is still one circulating, and that is Gavin Utley, who is being pressurised through the Andretti hairpin by Regan Mitchell and the number 69 Black Falcon Mercedes. Now they go into the right at turn number 3.
Yeah, and Regan in the early parts of this race, let's not forget, was battling up there in the top 4. So obviously he's had an incident or coming together somewhere that's dropped him down the order somewhat.
Just up ahead of them is the number 27 of Roberto Santoro in the Ferrari. That's a lot of dust to kick up from the right-hand side of the Mercedes as they go through into the left-hander at turn 6. On the Rahal straight, up the hill they go.
Yeah, that amount of dirt is not going to make you faster, but he's still in contact there with Gav, and he's all over the back of him in the brakes, and as you can see, some great camera angles from the producer. And he's not going to let Gav get away. He's going to hang on to the back of him, and maybe he's going to try and put a move on him in the braking zone in the last turn. Maybe he's not quite close enough, I don't think, but never say never.
Well, both cars very, very well accomplished within the world of GT3 racing. Obviously the Mercedes put their cars on pole for the ADAC Total 24 hours of the Nurburgring Nordschleife, which did finish a few hours ago, and a real good job by the organisers, also the entire track, and also every competitor that competed and also made it to the finish this past afternoon. I've got to be watching some highlights a bit later on this evening because I've missed out on a heck of a lot, from what I understand, as Gavin Utley catches the dirt coming out of turn 3. Oh, that was nearly a bit of a moment, and now Regan Mitchell again goes off, and this is through the kink through from turn 4 to turn 5. So again, both drivers. Now this is, we're in a flat-out race here, Steve, and from a sim racing perspective, these drivers do push like crazy, but there's a time to push and then there's a time to conserve, both from a mental and a physical aspect when you're behind the wheel of a simulator.
Yeah, there is, but I mean, at the end of the day, these guys will view a 60-minute race almost. It's a sprint race. It's not an endurance race. It's a sprint race, so it's flat out. You've got the fuel. You're going to go flat out and you're going to push. And you tell a racing driver, when he's got a car in front of him in sight, not to push. That you're just going to take it easy. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, looks like Chris Bowman has got a drive-through penalty. I would imagine that is for track limits, as Roberto Santoro trying to close on the Park Place Motorsport Porsche of Paul Lindsay, who completes the top 11 at the minute. The pair were just over 0.3 of a second adrift of each other, going across the start-finish line. Now they go through the Andretti hairpin. Now into the right very shortly for turn 3. Great job by Paul Lindsay at the moment, wouldn't you say? Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. But just watching him come out of that last turn onto the start-finish straight, he was very, very loose, and that just gave Roberto Santoro the opportunity to close up a little bit on him. But yeah, Paul's doing a fantastic job in 11th place with Porsche.
Yep, yellow flag's out at the moment. Now get retracted as someone went very, very wide coming out of turn number 5 there. As now Lindsay and Santoro make their way through turn 6. Oh, bit of a run wide there from Paul Lindsay on the approach up towards the corkscrew. That's definitely one thing you don't want. Dirt on your tyres before you go for one of the most fearsome braking zones on the calendar this season.
Yeah, I'm just looking for an opportunity to mention the time up at the front. Crossman 3.1 seconds ahead of Clifford Roberts, and James Hartnell half a second behind Archie. So Archie's had a bit of a moment by the looks of it. In fact, his last lap was a 1:27.6, so definitely he's been off somewhere.
1.8 seconds slower than Chris Crossman, who did a 1:25.821. So Yeah, this is rather interesting now. I did say that we're coming towards the business end of the season here, Steve, and one mistake can turn things all the wrong way. Ranjiv Kelsey has a moment, and one of the Audis bumps into him. Now, was that the 88?
Yes, I believe it was. I believe that's the incident that's caused Archie to lose time and hopefully not too much damage to his car.
So, Ranjiv Kelsey, Chris Crossman. Archie Clifford Roberts tries to go to the left to avoid Kelsey, and then, that's why it put him in harm's way as Hartnell now closing. The Ferrari has been a bit of a... it's not a prancing horse in this race, I think, Steve. I think dark horse in this race, especially now that he's going to try and take an advantage of Archie Clifford Roberts' misfortune there. You can just see, Ranjiv Kelsey did not put the brakes on the 47 Ferrari, and that is why he rolled back into the path of Archie Clifford Roberts. And Archie Clifford Roberts was an unwilling participant in that, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Ranj there, I mean, he was rolling backwards away from the track, so I guess he had Crossman at one side of him, and would you expect Archie to take to the dirt and go around the back of you? I mean, what do you do in that situation? Yeah, he probably should have been applying the brakes, but I think we'll maybe have to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one, although Archie may not, but we'll have a chat after the race.
Well, I think you might be chatting to the people after this one, because as for those that can hear me at the moment, I might be the voice of Simsport Racing, but my voice has definitely been tested today with all the racing that both myself and Steve have been commentating on throughout proceedings. Gavin Utley rounding out the top 13. He's got Regan Mitchell just behind, but he is closing on the number 27 Ferrari of Roberto Santoro. Let's have a look at the replay here, and that is Santoro, as Utley gives him a little tag from behind, but no harm, no foul there. So Gavin Utley, now that was, I'm just trying to see, was that Joao Diaz, I think possibly, that's just let them pass. The blue flags were being waved.
I'm not sure if that's Diaz or is it Bowman. I'm not sure.
Well, Bowman, I think, no, that's Bowman that they've just gone past, and that was Joao Diaz, so that was a Black Falcon car. Well, that was, no, that was Bowman, so... you've got Regan Mitchell there. Reese Wiggin is pitted. Jeffrey Wolf has pitted. Now, I'm wondering if they are falling a bit by the wayside as we head into the last 20 minutes of this race. And Laguna Seca, just like a lot of tracks in this sort of configuration here, Steve, it can be a bit of a car crusher, let's say, or a car breaker.
Certainly doesn't take any prisoners, and with the undulation, the grip, the walls, there's a lot of factors there that you run wide, you take damage, and it's not a track that you want to be racing 100% with damage. It obviously one incident and damage is going to lead to more incidents and damage. So yeah, definitely takes no prisoners.
So the gap between the two leaders, Chris Crossman, now on lap number 30 of this 60-minute race here at Laguna Seca, is exactly 3.4 seconds ahead of Archie Clifford Roberts. James Hartnell rounds out the top three, nearly 9/10 off of the number 96 Audi. Then it's Stephen Haley, Dean Riley having a great run in fifth place in the number 2 Tempesta, teammate 2 Hartnell. So that's really good to see. A Porsche leading, 2 Audis and 2 Ferraris in the top 5 as Richard Pixley, I think, has just had a moment there. And managed to rejoin. That was between turns 5 and 6 as we go on board from the rear diffuser of the Rinaldi Racing car of Roberto Santoro. Still rounding out the top 12. He's got Gavin Utley just behind. Regan Mitchell's there too. Peter Hrobar in the meantime, now up into P15 in the number 32 Audi. He's not too far adrift, I would have thought, but you've got the likes of Martin Dugala in 16th, Gianluca De Luca in the 135, Aston Martin in 17th, Pixley in 18th, Joao Diaz and Reese Wiggin in the 667 Optimum Motorsport McLaren 720S GT3 rounds out the top 20.
Yeah, and just looking at the lap times of the top 3, Crossman's last lap was a 22.85. The other 2 guys were in the 23s, albeit Hartnell was 2/10 faster than Clifford Roberts. So he's definitely hanging onto the back of Archie. As we can see, the gap's around about just under 6/10 now. So he's Archie's going to be looking more in his mirror than he is looking ahead at the moment, I believe.
I would very much concur with that statement. Here's a little replay here. Now there is Chris Bowman and Joao Diaz as... I think Chris Bowman just decided, I'm going to let Joao pass. I'm not going to sort of get embroiled in any sort of battle or anything, because Chris is a little bit further down the order in comparison with Joao Diaz, as someone did actually go off the... and there's Ranjiv Kelsey Not been a great race for him in the number 47 in Ronaldo Racing. That 488 GT3 looking rather second hand on the right hand side.
Yeah, that's his second off in as many laps, I believe, there. So, yeah, he's not having the best of nights, isn't Rand, this evening. Hero to Zero had a good performance the other week in the GT4s, if you remember.
Yep, so let's have a look. This is coming through turn 5. Goes completely off the dirt, puts the power down, back end steps out, and just simply a passenger there.
Yeah, the only good thing about that is I don't think he incurred any more damage with that incident.
Yeah, I think the majority of the damage was obviously with the incident earlier that involved Chris Crossman and Archie Clifford Roberts, and that right-hand side took a bit of a hefty whack from the 96 Audi. But obviously, at the end of the day, as you said, it's we're going to give benefit of the doubt on that one. But it's going to be a case that they'll have a bit more opportunity to practice for the next round at Barcelona in a couple of weeks' time on October the 11th before the Le Castellet finale on the 25th of October, which will be a 2-hour race to crown our Season 3 GT3 champion. This is a great battle here between Paul Lindsay, Roberto Santoro, Gavin Utley, and look at Regan Mitchell. He's menacing. He's trying to go towards the outside through into turn 5. The pair nearly side by side, nearly banged door panels there, and the Mercedes nearly steps out of the back end going through the corner.
Yeah, Gavin Utley giving as good as he is getting there and holding his line, and I believe he's managed to hang on to the place, so making Regan Mitchell work really hard to try and get past. I mean, Regan's been chasing him down for a few laps now, and he's not managed to get past the Bentley of Gavin Utley. Yeah,
both cars, both V8 powered, with that incredibly long bonnet that is characteristic of the AMG GT3, and it's also the same in GT4s as well. So many respects, it's good that one of the things I like about having both championships here is now that was very, very close between Santoro and Lindsay there coming out of the 11th and final corner. I think there was nigh on contact between the pair of them, so it's been quite interesting as now Regan Mitchell gets a real good run. He's going to try and go towards the outside of Gavin Utley through the Andretti hairpin. Will he make the move through? Oh, that's close, that's very close, but Gavin Utley's gone back up the inside through turn 2. He's got the move done. And not allowed Regan Mitchell to get past once again as they're now coming up to possibly lap Gianluca Di Luca in the number 135 Aston Martin down in 17th position. But this is a battle that could wage on right up until the checkered flag here, Steve.
Absolutely, and another battle that's looking to hot up a little bit is Hartnell within half a second of Archie Clifford Roberts. As we take another look here.
Yeah, that was through the final corner, and Santoro actually gave... That helped Paul Lindsay rather than hindered him. It just sort of punted him forward a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, just caught him unawares and just gave him a little bit of momentum there. But yeah, no harm, no foul, as you say.
So the gap now between Chris Crossman and Archie Clifford Roberts. Clifford Roberts, I've just noticed, has actually gone just over 0.3 of a second quicker and Chris Crossman on that last lap, so the gap would have been nearly to the tune of about 4 seconds. So Archie Clifford Roberts trying to close. Yellow flags are out on the circuit and now quickly retracted. So still 23 drivers competing in this race, being rounded out by Chris Bowman. Jeffrey Wolf sets the fastest lap of the race on the last tour. 33 laps completed, 13 minutes and 15 seconds still to go. It's anyone's guess here, Steve, who is going to win this battle. Is now Gavin Utley trying to go up the inside of Roberto Santoro through turn 2. Now trying to go through and do the same through turn 3. Will he get the job done? Not quite.
No, but he's trying. He's putting pressure on him and trying to force the mistake from Roberto to leave the door open as he runs very wide there and kicks up the dust. But that Bentley's a very capable machine in Gavin's hands. He's attacking hard.
Yep, as now Regan Mitchell looks to try and get back on level terms with the numbers 14 Bentley of Gavin Utley. Looks like one of the cars ran wide. That was Gianluca Di Luca. And he went, oh, that was close. He cut across the whole width of the track. And I don't know, that was definitely heart in the mouth moment there for, I think, all four drivers who went, oh no, Gianluca's on one side. Oh no, he's on the other.
Yeah, I think he obviously ran wide to the right as we were talking about that corner before, and obviously once he'd run wide on the right, he'd lost control and flicked back across the track, and very lucky not to collect anybody else. Yeah,
so yeah, you can hear a bit of canine disruption in the background there. Sorry about that. But it's been a rather interesting race so far, but Clifford Roberts still trying to close up. He's taken nearly another 2/10 as Paul Lindsay trying to be battled with by Roberto Santoro. As now Gavin Utley goes up the inside of the number 27 Ferrari, now takes 12th place. That's a great little bit of opportunistic work there from Gavin Utley, as now Regan Mitchell gets up the inside of the Ferrari too, and that was through turn 4. Nicely done by that duo to get past the number 27 of Santoro, who quite literally left the door wide open there, Steve.
Yeah, it's often the case, isn't it, when you're in close attention of a couple of cars, that if one gets through, the door's forced open and left open for the second car to follow through, and that's very much what happened there. Roberto Santoro has literally lost 2 places in almost one corner.
So Steve Hinden says on YouTube, awesome race, Chris Crossman, under such pressure from Archie. Archie, rough luck, buddy. Well, you can't have it all your own way in racing these days, and that's very true in the Simsport Racing community. It's about those that will try and push like crazy. And I think really with Chris Crossman's never say die attitude here, Steve, he's really put the frightness a little bit on Archie Clifford Roberts, to the point where Archie's made mistakes, but obviously that big incident involving Ranjit Kelsey was the biggest turning point in this race, and that's what's allowed Chris Crossman to get up the road and start scampering away. I mean, the gap's nearly 4.3 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Crossman, Archie Clifford Roberts, James Hartnell, the top 3 guys, as most of the guys on the grid, when they turn up to perform. You know, they come and they drive at their best. But it just goes to show the incident with Ranj that, you know, you can be driving absolutely at the top of your game and it can be taken out of your hands. As that Archie wasn't to blame for that in any way, shape or form, and it just knocked him back and created the gap that gave Crossman the breathing space to sort of eke out a 3-second gap, and now 4.5 seconds nearly.
There's now Gavin Utley and also Regan Mitchell looking to close on Paul Lindsay. He goes on the defensive through turn 6. Now that's brave, heading into the corkscrew. The Porsche will have the inside line, a little bit of contact between the Bentley and the Porsche. That could have really unsettled the back end of that Porsche and spun Lindsay around, but Lindsay stuck close to his guns and kept it on the black stuff. 9 minutes and 25 seconds of this race remain here at Laguna Seca in Salinas, California, at the WeatherTech Raceway. What a fantastic race for round 8 of the season. 2 more to go. Catalunya in just 2 weeks' time, and then the season finale 4 weeks from now at Le Castellet at Circuit Paul Ricard in France.
Yeah, Gav Utley got a better run out of the last corner as Paul Lindsay put the wheels on the dirt, so it's looking like Gav's got him on the inside here. Paul's hanging onto the braking zone, Gav's pushed him wide, and Regan Mitchell again, just opportunistic, gets through there, and he's got past Gav as well, 2 for 1.
Yeah, that's definitely a buy one get one free opportunity there, as Gavin Utley gets the tag from behind, courtesy of Paul Lindsay. All's fair in love and racing, as they say. A little bit of rubbing is racing, as Paul Lindsay goes 2 wheels off the track onto the dirt through the exit of turn number 4. 8.5 minutes still to go. And Chris Crossman, and when they say that the leader isn't really being talked much about, it's not Archie Clifford Roberts, it's Chris Crossman. A gap of over 4.8 seconds, I think I just counted there.
Yeah, we've got James.
Nearly 5 seconds now, Steve.
We've got James Hartnell in third. He's so frustratingly close. He's within sort of 7/10, and he's been within 4 and 5/10 of Archie, but Archie just seems to be able to respond to him and just eke out that gap by another 10th or 2. So James hasn't managed to get close enough to put a move on Archie as yet, or put him under any real pressure. But he's not given up, and he's got 7 minutes and 50 seconds to go, so he's still got time to do something.
Anything's possible. But also Chris Crossman on his last lap, when we completed lap number 37 of this race, 1 minute 22.578, and that is, Steve, just 0.117 seconds off of his fastest lap of the race. That's pretty good consistency, if I might add.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'll be looking at the results on the server at the end of this race, because we can get a full readout of all the lap times of the drivers. So it'll be very interesting to see, you know, how little they've varied, which it's a great performance, and like you say, very, very good consistency. So now the gap's starting to expand between certain competitors. Stephen Haley rounding out the top 4 is 8.471 seconds ahead of Dean Riley. A great showing for Tempesta Racing in terms of the teams championship here, Steve.
And this is what it's all about. It's all about the team game. And there's a lot of drivers that are working as the main halcyon driver, let's say, trying to score the maximum amount of points. But then when you see a team such as Tempesta, I don't think I've seen both cars in the top 5 so far this season.
No, it certainly won't do them any harm to get both the cars in the top 5, like you rightly say. But also Archie in 2nd and Hedges in 6th. So the editor's team will be scoring good points this evening as well. So yeah, it won't do them any harm. I have to say, Steve Haley in 4th place. He's had a quiet race tonight in respect to not a lot going on, but he's just sat there in 4th place, getting the job done, bringing it home for some good strong points for himself tonight.
As I've just seen a bit of a battle between Roberto Santoro, who's just come out on top, past Paul Lindsay as they went through the Andretti hairpin. So Santoro in the number 27 Ferrari 488, now up into 13th position, as the number 7 of Richard Pixley in the Jaguar lets both Archie Clifford Roberts and James Hartnell get past. And that's a bit of a wide line there, Richard, going through turn 2 at the Andretti hairpin, but I'm sure that he's just trying to make sure that he pays due diligence and has the spatial awareness just to let people get past, as there's a little bit of run onto the dirt by Archie Clifford Roberts. We now go onto the front windscreen cam of James Hartnell now as we head up under the bridge up towards turn 5. Now the real climb up Laguna Seca begins. Heading under the next bridge, through into the left at turn number 6, onto the Rahal Straight, and now the real climb begins up. So about 6.5, 7.5 stories climbed as you head towards the corkscrew. Now it's 470 feet. That makes you drop 5.5 stories deep into the circuit. Just under 5 minutes to go, and the race for second now very much on.
Yeah, James putting in a great performance. He's just hitting those apexes and getting the braking points absolutely smack on, and really keeping Archie honest and keeping him under pressure. So we now come across the line, 40 laps completed. So by my estimation, with around a 1 minute 22 second lap time, I think we've possibly got another 4 laps in the books that could be completed by the end of this. So it will be 43 to 44 laps when the timer strikes 0 that we'll have completed for our 8th round out of 10 here on Simsport Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Season 3 GT3 Round 8. And what a titanic battle it was initially, Steve, between Chris Crossman and Archie Clifford Roberts. But now the battle that we're really having to keep our eyes on is this one just on our screens. Yeah, and I mean, pretty much, James, when we say Crossman and Archie Clifford Roberts, James Hartnell's never been far away. He's always been on the back of these two. First couple of laps he maybe dropped off a bit, but he soon closed it back up. So, you know, great. Talking about consistency of Crossman, James is putting some great consistency as well to stay there. And when you think he's tagged onto the back of a driver like Archie and he's putting him under pressure, it's absolutely fantastic performance from him tonight.
So at the moment, with just over 3 minutes 20 to go, here's the running order. Crossman, Clifford Roberts, Hartnell, Haley, Riley, Hedges, Bliv AK, Charlie Crossland, Rich Smith, Adam Isalovic, Regan Mitchell, Gavin Utley, Roberto Santoro, Paul Lindsay, Peter Robar, Martin Dugala, Joao Diaz, Gianluca De Luca, Reese Wiggin, Jeffrey Wolf rounding out the top 20, Ranjiv Kelsey, Richard Pixley, Chris Bowman rounding out the top 23. It looks like Pixley has pitted in the number 7 Jaguar. A real shame. There is Chris Bowman. Nevertheless, despite come hell or high water, always good to see the number 12 of Chris Bowman make it to the finish at the end of every single race. And that just shows how committed some of these drivers are here, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You've got to finish the races to improve. You've got to keep putting the laps in. And wherever you are in the field, it's best just to keep going, because you score points all the way down to 20th place. So, you know, it's worth getting them. As we're having a look at another driver I wanted to follow in this race, Rich Smith. He's up into the top 10th now in 9th, just behind Charlie Crossland. So Charlie's obviously either had an incident or Bliv's just put some stellar laps in and pulled away from him. But yeah, it's Rich Smith's sort of a second behind Crossland now. Well,
those 3 drivers effectively I've just been seeing, thanks Daniel Parker, Richard Pixley's teammate, saying Richard got a puncture past the pit entry. That's why we went wide, and we were having issues all laps. So he's pulled in for a puncture, and that can happen even in the sim racing world. Rich Smith and the Lexus now closing on Charlie Crossland as they head towards the left-hander at turn 5, and we know how quick Charlie Crossland can be when he wants to respond to a driver that will try and put one up on him, as they now go under the bridge heading into the left-hander at turn 6. And this is a great performance from Rich Smith. I think just looking at the times last time around here, Steve, Liv AK a 124.204, Charlie Crossland a 124.126, and then Rich Smith a 124.222. So they're running within a tenth of a second of each other.
Yeah, the times are really close, and as we saw in qualifying, everybody's times were very, very close, so we knew we were on for some good battles. But obviously, hot lapping doesn't count, it's just about race pace, and these guys have certainly got the measure of each other's pace, as Crossland's just eking out the gap a little bit longer now. I do believe he's got the pace on Rich Smith, and I think he made a mistake to fall back into the clutches of Rich Smith. But yeah, absolutely fantastic performance from Rich tonight, and I'm really pleased to see it, to be honest.
Right, through they go into the Andretti hairpin at effectively what is turn 2. Because the left-hand kink on the main straightaway is classed as turn 1. A little bit of a run wide there by Charlie Crossland on the exit of turn 2. Now into the right at 3. 30 seconds on the clock still remaining. Now I'm wondering where our leader is at the moment.
Our leader he's just crossed the start-finish line now. So he's actually on to what will be his final lap.
So 44 laps will be completed. As you can see, we now go to the split screen variety. Chris Crossman in the top left-hand corner of your screens, heading through what will be, I think that is turn 4 he's just gone through.
I saw the miss there was so close. Not quite sure who it was that was rejoining, but yeah, they nearly took him out. So that was Jeffrey Wolf. That's the bright yellow Ferrari, isn't it? That must have run a little bit wide, wasn't it, I think? No, I don't think it was, but maybe we can get a replay, I'm not sure, but it was a car. I think it was 90 degrees to the track rejoining, so it was
crikey.
Not ideal.
Well, it's either going to be Jeffrey Wolf or it's going to be the car in front, which will be Gianluca De Luca. I'm not too sure, but look at how close Rich Smith is to Charlie Crossland as they now cross the line to go onto the 44th and final lap. Rich Smith trying to push, tries to go towards the inside through the kink, goes towards the outside through the Andretti hairpin, closes right on the back bumper of Charlie Crossland, as now we have another win. This time it is not for Archie Clifford Roberts. Crossing the line after 44 laps of Laguna Seca, it is Chris Crossman in the number 3 Porsche 911 GT3R, taking the victory by 3.261 seconds ahead of Archie Clifford Roberts. James Hartnell rounds out the top 3. Stephen Haley will take 4th ahead of Dean Riley. Good to see both Tempesta Racing 488 Ferraris in the top 5. Dave Hedges will take 6th, but the battle that we're really interested in behind Bliv AK is between Charlie Crossland and Rich Smith. Rich Smith is fast running out of time as they go through the corkscrew for the final time.
Yeah, he's heaping the pressure on. He's trying to force Crossland into a mistake, but I think Crossland's got just enough of a gap now, and looks like Rich has maybe just eased off and thinking, you know what, I'm just going to take this 9th place and be happy. Especially
after 60 minutes of hard-fought competition as the smoke fills the bleachers here at Laguna Seca. Charlie Crossland from Team Fordzilla takes 8th ahead of Rich Smith in the Tech 1 Racing Lexus RCF GT3. Gavin Utley will finish behind Regan Mitchell, who recovers to take 10th position at the end of that all. Gavin Utley in 11th. Roberto Santoro in 12th. Peter Hrobar crosses the line in 15th ahead of Martin Durgala. Reese Wiggin takes 19th behind Gianluca De Luca. Jeffrey Wolf rounds out the top 20. But really, Steve, what a race.
Absolutely.
Great job by Chris Crossman to hold off Archie Clifford Roberts from the minute we went green.
Yeah, it was brilliant driving. I mean, Chris set the ball in motion from qualifying with a great qualifying pole lap. He did what he needed to do, beat Archie into the first corner, soaked up the pressure for a few laps, kept it consistent, and he's got the job done. I mean, we normally at this point sort of say a driver of the day. I'd be picking between two. I'm going to say Crossman's is my driver of the day just because of the performance, pole position, under pressure, held it, consistency, won it. But I think James Hartnell did a sterling job as well in third place today. But Crossman's the driver of the day for me.
I'm going to go out on a limb for this one. I'm going to actually say Dean Riley, top 5 finish here at Laguna Seca, and that was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. But I think really I'm now going to hand over to Steve because I think you've got a couple of interviews to do. Sorry to rope you into this, buddy, but I think it's always good to have my partner in crime doing some interviews from the odd occasion.
No problem. I'll pop down to the interview booth now. Wow, what a race, Mr. Crossman. That was absolutely awesome, mate. You've got to be happy with that result. Fantastic qualifying, fantastic race. Was it what you expected, mate?
Yeah, it was, to be honest. Like, I know I've been a little bit ahead of Archie in the practice because even with the Porsche still is decent tier mine, so obviously I've got that in my bag. But then Archie's one of them, super guys that even in a car that doesn't perform as well, he can come right up against us, and that was what I was expecting, to be honest. Because whenever it comes to race day, he finds that extra level. And I mean, I practiced quite a lot with race fuel, and I did get a few okay laps in, but at the beginning I had a little bit too much PSI, so I was struggling for the first, I'd say, quarter. And then when I started to find my rhythm a bit, then it started to be okay. But Archie, I really did think he was going to get past me 1 or 2 parts in the first few laps. So if that was the case, it was game over, because it's really hard to overtake.
No, he was really piling the pressure on you, as we saw for the first few laps there, and well, for a good chunk of the race, to be honest. He wasn't really giving you much time to breathe. I know myself and Alex were commenting that you were stronger on some parts and Archie was stronger on others, and there was a sort of a 2-3 10th yo-yo effect going on with the gap. But no, absolute credit to you, mate. That was an awesome drive, like I say, from qualifying to the race to getting the job done. Brilliant stuff under pressure and very, very consistent. So well done, mate.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks for that.
No worries. Over to Archie. Good performance, mate. One step down from where you normally are, but as Chris just said there, the Porsche is very, very strong at Laguna, and he was sort of pipping you in practice. So a strong result for you all the same, and a good race.
Yeah, Crossman's when he drove superbly, very consistent, very fast. There's no way going to pass him. Same goes to James as well. He drove really well. Put the pressure on me near the end of the race, but no, well done to both of them.
Just one heart in the mouth moment that we noticed with Ranjiv Kelsey. Yeah, we got that on camera, and we literally sharp intake of breath where you had really nowhere to go, but that was a close one.
I had absolutely nowhere to go. I chose a path on his left, and it seemed to me that as if he didn't put his brakes on. I didn't know where to go. I couldn't go the other way. I don't know if that's my fault. I'm sorry if it is, but it really damaged my car. I have a really bad understeer afterwards. I couldn't keep up with Chris anymore after that. I'm glad I finished second, but that really put a dent in my performance.
It looked like Ranj was rolling backwards. He maybe hadn't applied the brakes, but he was rolling away from the track. But yeah, it was very unfortunate. But like you say, happy that you finished second, mate, because you did deserve it, and you came under a lot of pressure from third place James Hartnell.
Yeah, well done to him and well done to Chris. It was awesome.
Good evening, James.
Hey guys.
Well done, mate. The guys got away from you ever so slightly in the opening laps, but you came back at them, and you sort of just stuck in there for the whole race. It was a fantastic drive from yourself there, mate. Happy with it?
Yeah. Well, it all went to plan. Funny enough, I said to Archie 2 weeks ago, I said that a back marker will decide this race. It won't be. It'll be down to back markers, and it was. There were some interesting decisions going on, but. The guys I knew the two guys were going to be really, really fast, and I knew that if Archie could stay close enough to Chris to put him under pressure, I could sit back, let my tyres just roll round, and then hopefully get stronger towards the end of the race. And it sort of worked, until Archie let me down and pulled back a wee bit. But when I came over the corkscrew and saw Archie and Ranj having a cuddle, I had to back off. I didn't want to try and put Archie under too much pressure. I could see that he was in a bit of a kerfuffle just then.
I mean, apart from that one incident there, all three of you were putting in some absolutely astonishingly consistent laps. You know, they were never that far away from each other, but the consistency was very, very good tonight. And Laguna Seca, as we know, it doesn't really take any prisoners. And like you say, when there's, I think we started with 26 cars on the grid, so it's a lot of cars to navigate your way around. But you all did an absolutely fantastic job. Barcelona next. Are we all looking forward to that one?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what the Ferrari's like right now. I haven't really driven it, so.
If it's dry, then yeah.
We were doing a little bit of a rain dance in qualifying. Actually, it has to be said, because a few people commented on the YouTube stream that is it going to rain, and you put a comment on there about no rain, and I must admit we were sat here saying, just a little bit of rain would be nice, just a little bit. But Mr. Crossman, are you looking forward to Barcelona? Are you going to have a stronger race there, do you think?
That's a no.
He's just having to think about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Barcelona. The Porsche is strong there, buddy.
Good stuff. No worries. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, and well done on this evening's race. You really, it was very, very entertaining and very close and great stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Steve, some very, very good viewpoints from our top three, from Chris Crossman, Archie Clifford Roberts and James Hartnell. But that really just whets the appetite for 2 weeks' time when we head to Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona for the 90-minute race, which is the penultimate round of the season. I seriously cannot wait for that one, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, like we said tonight, the guys were really on it. The consistency from the drivers, it's just rounded off a fantastic day's racing today. With the Simply Race stuff, if you haven't seen the Simply Race British Championship, make sure you check out their YouTube channel. Some fantastic British touring cars and Clio racing on there that I had the privilege of commentating on today, so some really great stuff. And, please hit subscribe and like on the Simsport YouTube. It really does help us, and we can get some more videos out to you.
Definitely. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well. So really, that is it from us here. Myself here in the Simply Race facility here at Milton Keynes. It's been a fantastic